The Galactic Hall of 18 Moons was a monument to excess. Polished silver columns stretching into sapphire fog, and gravity chandeliers swaying from invisible threads. The Nadrak knew how to impress. They knew how to intimidate. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that the most dangerous person in the chamber wasn't armored, scaled, or crowned. She stood quietly at the center of the ornate hall, a human woman in a flowing navy coat, 6 months pregnant, one gloved hand resting on her belly, and the other clutching a warm mug of cocoa. Steam curled softly above her lips as she smiled up at the towering monarch before her. "I do hope I'm not interrupting anything imperial," she said, voice gentle and honeyed with Midwestern cadence. But the cocoa was growing cold. Galactic King Velzen of the Nadrak Imperium blinked his triple eyelids. The tendrils above his cheeks twitched. The golden chains wrapped around his robes clinked with restrained contempt. "It is considered a breach of decorum," he hissed, "to bring non-sanctioned liquids into the Hall of Audience." She took another sip. "Oh, we call it hospitality where I'm from. Wisconsin, to be precise." The silence that followed was almost devotional. Every alien present, rough-skinned advisors, ink-blue generals, a float of spindly-eyed data scribes, watched her with barely concealed offense. One advisor raised a claw to whisper something into Velzen's ear. The king waved him off. The woman adjusted her scarf slightly, revealing a hint of a United Earth Embassy pin. Her coat had a discreet badge on the left side, barely noticeable, but glowing faintly red to those with eyes trained for military signatures. "I've come in peace," she said, "to discuss the matter of the Kepler 77 trade lanes. I believe your forces have established unauthorized checkpoints along our shared routes." Velzen tilted his crown. "And Earth believes it has shared routes? With the Imperium?" She smiled again, wider this time. It wasn't coy. It wasn't smug. It was the kind of smile that teachers gave unruly students right before assigning double homework. "Well, last month you did sign the reciprocal Accord of Transit, unless that was just a performative thing. Like those gravity chandeliers. Very floaty, but not very grounded." A snort erupted from somewhere among the data scribes. It was quickly silenced with a sharp flick of a tail. Velzen's tongue slithered briefly from his mouth, tasting the mood. "You are with child," he said, pivoting. "And yet you come bearing challenges. That is reckless. I would expect more restraint from your species." She tilted her head slightly. "I suppose we just find the idea of obedience by uterus a little outdated." Murmurs rustled through the chamber like dry leaves. The Nadrak loathed being outmaneuvered verbally. It bruised them in places they didn't even name. But the human woman wasn't flinching. She simply stood there, letting the tension curl around her like steam off her mug. Her scarf fluttered faintly as gravity pulses adjusted behind her, and a small metallic droid hovered discreetly to her side. It had no weapons, just a medical scanner. Velzen's voice dropped into something deeper. "You've brought no guards." She nodded toward her midsection. "I'm already carrying someone." A few chuckled. Others didn't. One of the generals whispered, "She mocks you, my king." Velzen raised his claws, gesturing toward her. "I was told human females were less confrontational." She nodded thoughtfully. "Most of the ones you've met were diplomats, perhaps. Or tourists. Or entertainers. I used to be a marine linguist. Spent 10 years decoding whale songs before I joined foreign policy. Strange how animals always seem more honest than empires." His eye ridges stiffened. "You insult the Imperium in its sacred hall." "I'm just stating personal history." She took another sip. "Though I could be misremembering. Pregnancy brain, you know." Velzen stood from his throne. The motion was slow, intentional. The weight of ceremony, he believed, was always heavier when you made them wait for it. "You insult with honeyed tones," he said. "You wear softness like armor. You sip from childish mugs and speak of treaties as if they were baking instructions." He stepped forward, scales catching the white-blue starlight above. What kind of warrior sends his wife into a serpent's nest and lets her smile at vipers? Her smile didn't waver, but her voice quieted. "He didn't send me." Velzen paused, as if waiting for a more elaborate answer. None came. She simply stood there, hand resting on her stomach again, fingers moving slightly. 3 taps, then a pause. A signal? No one could tell. Behind her, a distant shimmer revealed a portal display of Earth's moon. It hovered like a pearl, docile, harmless. Harmless was good. Harmless meant manageable. Velzen exhaled sharply. Earth is small. Its teeth are milk teeth. You do not bark at lions, mammal. Funny, she said. I always thought lions were cats. Territorial, easily startled. Pretty, but they don't like loud noises. Or surprises. Velzen's claws clinked together. The sound echoed like metal raindrops. You came to discuss trade, not insult our biology. She nodded. Then let's talk terms. She removed a chip from her coat, holding it up like a priest might raise a wafer. The room dimmed slightly. Holographic streams burst forth, trade charts, resource paths, mineral concentrations, even secret black market stops the Nadrak hadn't realized were being monitored. All of it orbiting between them in radiant light. The room was stunned. One advisor croaked. How did you obtain these? She glanced down at her mug. Some of it came from droids. Some from intercepted telemetry. Some from cookies. We handed them out last visit, remember? Another ripple of tension. Velzen's face hardened. You are accusing us of theft, spying, deceit. I'm accusing you of being sloppy. She stepped forward, letting the holograms rotate around her like constellations. You thought we were naive. That Earth was still organizing alphabetically. But you forgot something. He sneered. And what is that? She leaned in, eyes twinkling. We watch. We wait. And sometimes we pretend to bring cookies when we're really bringing questions. Velzen's eyes narrowed to slits. You act without fear. She nodded. Not without fear. Just without your kind of fear. Her words hung in the air like frost. Several guards adjusted their stances. A general's tail twitched in warning. And then, the smallest thing happened. Her badge pulsed red again, just once. Barely visible. Barely a blink. The king's eyes caught it. He stepped closer, now towering over her. You are very confident, human. She looked up, quiet calm. Confidence is just the name we give silence when we know we're right. He leaned forward, claws flexing. Your husband, this phantom of yours, does he know where you are? She blinked once, slowly. I hope not. I told him I was going to the market. Velzen's jaw unhinged ever so slightly in disbelief. And he believed you, he asked. She let out a small laugh, barely more than an exhale. I don't lie to him. I just delay the truth until it matters. The room bristled with murmurs. It wasn't just her words. It was her timing, her stillness. Something about her felt wrong, not broken, not defective, but wrong in the way a puzzle piece shouldn't fit, and yet somehow does. Velzen stood fully upright again. Earth should be careful where it sends its wombs. She looked down at her stomach, then up again. Her voice dropped into something nearly inaudible. So should you. For a moment, neither of them moved. A war of stillness. Then she took a final sip of her cocoa, now lukewarm. I think we've made progress today, she said. Velzen hissed, softly. We will respond to your proposal after deliberation. She inclined her head. Then I'll wait in your gardens. Do you still grow moon lilies? Only for dignitaries. I'd like to see if they bloom under pressure. She turned, walking slowly down the shimmering steps, gravity shifting gently around her. The guards did not follow. They just watched. Behind her, Velzen muttered to his nearest general. She's bluffing. She must be bluffing. And yet, that badge, that calm, that phrase, he didn't send me. Who was her husband? A whisper passed among the guards, nameless but unmistakably fearful. In the silence that followed, the air itself seemed to tighten, just slightly, like something was beginning somewhere far away. And far too late. The morning of the second audience dawned blue and sharp over the imperial spires, slicing clean through the haze of formality. The sky hung still above the Nadrak citadel, as if the heavens themselves held their breath. In the central chamber, gravity hums were calibrated to maximum elegance. Drapes of shimmering gravity silk floated behind obsidian thrones. But no one noticed them. Not really. They were watching her. The human woman had returned. She walked slowly across the gleaming obsidian tiles, the sound of her boots barely audible. One hand rested against the subtle swell of her belly. The other, still gloved, carried nothing. No cocoa, no datapad, just presence. She wore a charcoal shawl now, wrapped high on her shoulders, as if the chamber's cold had finally seeped into her bones. Velzen watched her come with a hiss curling low in his throat. This time, she didn't smile. The court had already been briefed. Earth had issued no formal protest. No sanctions. No retaliation. The king had dismissed it as human timidity, cowards who talked through committees. He expected a breakdown of negotiations, maybe a retreat. What he didn't expect was her return. "I didn't think you'd come back," he said aloud, his voice dripping with velvet venom. "I wanted to finish our conversation," she answered, her voice low and warm, but hollow, like a lullaby sung from an empty cradle. "There's something left to clarify." A protocol scribe beside him clicked its mandibles. "The Earth envoy returns without escort. We assume this implies surrender or conciliation." She turned her head just slightly. "You assume quite a bit." A pause, quiet but dense. Her eyes didn't roam this time. They didn't scan the walls or the relics or the thousands of watching eyes. They were fixed solely on the king. Still, focused. Velzen rose again, letting his regal silks cascade behind him. "You posture with silence and riddles. It's tiresome. Earth has no armies worth fearing. No reach. No claim to dignity." He descended 3 steps toward her, the chamber echoing beneath his talons. "I offered your world trade, access, tolerance. And this," he waved a claw toward her belly, "is how you repay me? With veiled threats." Her jaw shifted, ever so slightly. "I never threatened you, Your Majesty." "You implied retaliation." "No," she said. "I warned you." He stopped a breath away from her, towering above. His golden crown glimmered against the artificial skylight. His voice lowered into something serpentine. "What is it you think you are human?" She raised her eyes slowly. "Expected." The word landed like a stone in a quiet pond. The ripples were invisible, but they moved through the air all the same. Velzen's hand twitched. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it was the flick of cloth, the hum of nerves. But something cracked. A beat of anger, of hunger, of wounded pride. The kind that festers behind authority when it fears it's being laughed at. And then he did it. A slap. A cold, deliberate, echoing slap. It struck her cheek clean and sharp, with the full weight of scaled flesh and arrogant tradition. She staggered. Just once. Just slightly. A small gasp fluttered through the hall. Her hand rose to her face slowly, her fingers brushing the place he'd touched her. She looked down at the smear of blood on her glove. Not much. Just a streak, bright against the charcoal wool. For a moment, everything froze. Even the gravity chandeliers seemed to still. Velzen smiled. "That," he said, "is what happens when a viper is disrespected in his own nest." She didn't answer. Not right away. She turned her face forward again. The welt was rising now, red and raw, but her voice was steady as iron cooled in snow. "You really shouldn't have done that." "Oh," he said, chuckling. "And why not?" She looked him in the eye. This time, no warmth. No riddles. "Because I'm not here alone. You've brought no guards. No threats. No, I'm not talking about guards." The room stirred. A few of the Nadrak shifted. Her hand lowered again to her stomach. "Do you know who I'm carrying?" He laughed. Actually laughed. The court followed. Some reluctantly, others gleefully, teeth clicking in rhythmic derision. "You presume we care about your spawn?" She took a step forward, so close now she could see the shimmer of his breath. "I didn't say you cared," she whispered. "I said you shouldn't have touched his child." A silence deeper than any before settled in the chamber. Velzen's pupils narrowed. His? Behind her, a soft whine began to pulse from the floating droid she'd left dormant earlier. It blinked. Once. Red. Again. Redder. No one noticed at first. They were staring at her face. the shift in it, the absence. A woman struck, a diplomat bruised. Yet no tears, no fury, just silence, cold and humming. Your husband, Velzen said finally, sneering. Is that what you mean to suggest? She gave no answer. Who is he? The king demanded. Some Earth politician? A general? The droid flashed again. This time, more than one in the room noticed. One of the generals moved toward it. It's transmitting. To what? A scribe asked, alarm tightening its voice. Unknown. The air changed. That quickly. The banners hanging above them began to flicker, just a stutter. Then a pulse in the light. Frequencies shifting in near-visible patterns. Above the hall, external communications began to freeze. Several off-world relays dropped from orbit. The Nadrak servers stuttered. Not crashed. Not destroyed. Just paused. And someone whispered, "This isn't diplomatic." "No," she said quietly, still staring at the king. "This is personal." She turned slowly to leave, as if her task was done. No rush. No retreat. Just a movement of conclusion. Velzen barked, "You will explain this." She paused. Turned slightly. "Not all the way." "I don't need to," she said. "He will." The lights flickered again. The droid pinged one last time. And from deep space, faint but growing, came a signal from an encrypted human frequency long thought dormant. A whisper, barely translated by the chamber's translators, vibrated through the hall. "Awake." Just one word. The king stood frozen, the laughter gone from his throat. His tail had curled, involuntarily, into a defensive coil. One of the guards stepped backward. The pregnant woman said nothing more. She simply walked past the thrones, past the generals, past the marble that had once felt like triumph under alien feet. The echo of her steps was louder now, or maybe the chamber had just grown quieter. As she reached the edge of the hall, one of the scribes summoned courage and asked, trembling, "Who is he?" She didn't turn. She didn't stop. But her voice carried, soft, reverent. "The man who doesn't speak when he's angry, just when he's ready." Then she was gone, and the court, once smug with tradition, now sat in stillness, staring at a droid that blinked red like the slow ticking of a bomb long forgotten, but never defused. It began with a whisper, not in the hall, not in the palace, but in the dark cold of deep space where the static speaks before voices ever do. The message had no greeting, no identification tag, no declared origin. Just a single audio pulse carried through a disused diplomatic frequency, known only to high-clearance alien officials. The words came wrapped in ancient code, one long thought broken by time. Awake. No name, no coordinates, just that. Aboard the Imperial listening station orbiting Glavin Prime, a Nadrak archivist replayed the signal 6 times before alerting his superior. By the time it reached the War Council, 7 more of those pulses had arrived, each identical, each precise. It was the silence between them that was unsettling. No grand threats, no demands, just presence. Velzen stood at the head of his throne dais, tail coiled in unease, claws clicking lightly against obsidian. His court had not seen him sleep in 3 rotations. The woman's exit still hung in the air like bitter incense. The droid had stopped blinking, but the atmosphere hadn't cooled. And now this. The generals whispered, not openly, not urgently, but with a growing shape in their words. Her husband? It must be him. Jonah Hellshade. That name hadn't passed their lips in years. Not since the siege of Daraxis. Not since the Delta collapse. The humans never confirmed his identity after the war. No broadcasts. No medals. Just silence. The kind that suggested not absence, but strategic dormancy. Velzen waved a claw, summoning the High Scribe. Bring me the historian. The Terran one. A moment later, a bony, dusk-skinned Tharnian emerged, a scholar who'd lived among humans decades prior and now served the Imperium as a cultural analyst. The king didn't address him immediately. He walked to the center of the hall and studied the spot where the woman had stood. What do you know of Jonah Hellshade? The Tharnian's voice was dry parchment. If the name still belongs to a man, he is not one the galaxy wishes to awaken. Legend, Velzen dismissed. The Tharnian tilted his head. Legends leave bodies, Your Majesty. Entire fleets, gone without record. Generals who surrendered before meeting him. Enemies who burned their own archives to avoid becoming part of his patterns. Velzen narrowed his eyes. Patterns. They say he doesn't speak often, but when he does, it's never twice. Every word is weighted like a blade. He doesn't wage war. He prepares silence, and then watches as enemies unravel trying to fill it. A court official leaned in, anxious. Are we certain this woman is his wife? The Tharnian considered. She carries herself as someone loved by a tactician. Gentle where the world expects fire. Soft, to make your strike seem uglier. She uses stillness as a shield. That is human strategy. The king hissed. I will not fear a ghost. But his next words faltered before reaching air, because the holoscreen above them suddenly bloomed with light, and not from Nadrak broadcast. It was hijacked. Smooth, seamless. The Imperium's crest fizzled and was replaced by Earth's old military emblem, retired since the last peace accord. And beneath it, in white serif font, Operation Porcelain Smile, Day 1. No voice. No video. Just a title card. Then it vanished. And for the first time, the chamber buzzed with panic. Admirals began shouting down links. Defensive commanders activated failsafes. But nothing responded. Systems were still operational, but quiet, as if waiting for something they couldn't see. The Tharnian whispered, this is a psychological breach. He's not disabling systems, he's making us question them. What's the objective? Velzen growled. To bleed certainty, the Tharnian replied. Then where is he? Velzen roared. A young envoy, blue-scaled and shaking, stepped forward. Your Majesty, a freighter departing the outer moons detected an unidentified object near the asteroid ring. Pirate. Unlikely. No signal. No movement. But what? Velzen barked. The envoy swallowed hard. The object appears to be the moon. Silence. Velzen blinked. What moon? The envoy trembled. Earth's. It's no longer where it's supposed to be. Velzen waved the statement away. Nonsense. The humans would never. It's not just missing, sir, the envoy whispered. It's coming toward us. Velzen froze. The Tharnian sighed. So he's begun. The king turned, furious. How? How could one human do this? He's not just one, the Tharnian replied. He's the man they send when Earth wants memory to become myth. They say he doesn't kill to win. He kills to send meaning. But why this? A general barked. Why this madness? Over a diplomat? The Tharnian's expression softened. Not a diplomat. A wife. A mother. A symbol. And you struck her in public. On record. While she was carrying his name. Another admiral whispered. And she said he didn't send me. She didn't need to be sent, the Tharnian said. She was the trigger. A screen flickered again. This time it was a brief image, a corridor of alien soldiers, all still, all silent, as a single human in dark coat passed through them, face unreadable, posture calm. The corridor looked like one of theirs. Is that? He's already inside, someone whispered. No, another breathed. That's just a feed. From where? Unknown. And yet again, the screen went dark. Velzen trembled. He wants me to panic. No. The Tharnian corrected. He wants you to remember, and fear what you've forgotten. From the shadows, another figure approached, an old Nadrak warlord who had faced human fleets during the early border skirmishes. His face was lined with old burns, and his eyes no longer glowed with arrogance. I remember the stories, he said, of the Duraxis beacon, of the night vanishings. Entire squadrons snuffed without a blast. He looked at the king directly. They said Hellshade once turned an entire armada into a decoy to mask his real fleet using their own exhaust signatures. Burned thousands just to hide hundreds. We called it brutality. He called it math. Another voice added, he doesn't make threats. He creates regrets. Velzen paced. So what is his objective? Revenge? Apology? a surrender ceremony. And then a voice spoke from the court speaker array, flat, human, and undeniably real. He's not coming for your throne. Every head turned. The voice was female, calm, familiar. It was her. She continued, he doesn't care about crowns. He doesn't want to own your empire. He wants something smaller. A pause. He wants you to kneel. The court fell deathly still. Velzen looked around wildly. Where is she? But she wasn't in the palace. She was transmitting from somewhere else, maybe nowhere at all. A message pre-recorded? Or perhaps she had never truly left the building. The Tharnian knelt, slowly, his bones creaking. It's done, he said quietly. You've already lost the part that matters. Velzen's voice cracked with fury. No, I will not be shamed by a species of dirt farmers and storytellers. Another pulse from the listening station arrived. This one marked with a single glyph. Stand by. And a countdown to 41. Not minutes. Hours. Earth time. The king's court had no idea what the countdown meant. But every alien present suddenly felt the same thing. They were no longer writing the rules of this story. They were characters in it. And someone else had just picked up the pen. Under the flickering gloom of the Imperial War Chamber, Galactic King Velzen stood before a screen that refused to obey. The countdown had reached 011, glowing with infuriating calm. 11 minutes to what? No one could say. His advisors, once smug, once venom-tongued, had grown mute, chins low, eyes darting. It wasn't just fear now. It was certainty. The kind that rides just behind revelation. Something was coming, and they were not prepared. The woman had not returned. Her voice still lingered in the data stream, her final sentence repeating in the heads of everyone who had heard it. He doesn't want your throne. He wants you to kneel. Velzen had not slept. He'd paced, cursed, bitten into his own scale palm in thought. The humans had done something. Not just provocation. Precision. Something layered, invisible, deliberate. And the worst part, the truly unbearable part, was that he couldn't find it. We've scanned all airspace, his admiral reported. No known fleets, no warships. The anomaly still tracks outside the perimeter, matches the mass of Luna, Earth's moon. But it's not behaving like a celestial body. Explain, Velzen growled. It's parked. The king turned, slowly. Parked. Stationary. With intent. Maintaining orbital disguise. But it's no longer orbiting. Another voice added, we've detected synthetic gravitational signatures. It's not just moved, it's been piloted. Velzen slammed his fist against the obsidian throne. You mean to tell me they moved the moon? Their own moon, someone whispered, as if the phrase alone might curse them. More data poured in, alien relays intercepting encrypted bursts from human satellites. Hundreds of them, orbiting unannounced, in what used to be dead zones. Radio ghosts, silent witnesses, all transmitting in unison. But none of them sent warnings. No threats. Just quiet confirmation. They were ready. And Earth had said nothing. No announcements. No rallies. No recorded war speech. The humans, it seemed, did not need an audience. Their power didn't arrive with noise. It moved through silence, through absence, through unseen hands, tightening every moment. They've made us look for ships, murmured the Tharnian historian from the corner. But humans never bring war to your eyes. They bring it to your logic, to your assumptions. Velzen turned toward the screen again. 006. A chill passed through the chamber. Then, with a soft chime, the countdown vanished. In its place, a live stream. A camera feed. It showed the Garden of 12 Stones, one of the Imperium's holiest inner sanctums, hidden beneath the palace itself. Reserved for coronations and ancestral memory ceremonies. No cameras were allowed. No outsiders permitted. And there, standing alone beneath the temple's starlit canopy, was a man. Human. Tall. Bearded. Wrapped in a simple dark coat that moved like breath. He stood with his back to the camera, hands behind him, watching the holographic waterfall that spilled upward into artificial constellations. The silence of the place was reverent. Like he didn't enter with conquest. like he arrived for something smaller. Velzen's blood chilled. "Seal the chamber," he ordered. "It's too late," said the Tharnian softly. "He's already been inside. You've just now noticed." The man on the screen finally turned. Even through the flickering hologram, his eyes seemed to see them. And then he spoke. "Your Majesty." No anger. No rage. Not even disdain. Just calm. "Your warships are beautiful. Meticulously carved. Your banners iconic. Your chamber reverent." A pause. "And yet none of them stopped me from walking into your most sacred ground." Velzen bared his fangs. "You will not dictate terms here." The man smiled faintly. It wasn't amused. It wasn't mocking. It was knowing. "I'm not here to dictate." He stepped forward. "I'm here to demonstrate." A flash of light, quiet, sharp. The entire chamber's walls began to pulse. Not alarms. Mirrors. Hundreds of small reflective surfaces, flickering to life with images not from outside, but from inside the palace. Hallways. Dormitories. Guard posts. All empty. Deserted. "No," one of the advisors breathed. "They're gone," said the man. "Who?" Velzen demanded. "Everyone you sent to defend this place. Your sentries. Your patrols. Gone. Not dead. Not harmed. Just gone." "How?" "They weren't loyal to you. They were loyal to the story you kept telling. And I gave them a different ending." Velzen shook with rage. "You cannot just remove my guard from within." "I didn't," the man said. "They walked." Velzen roared. "I will not be embarrassed." "Yes," the man said softly, interrupting him. "You will." And then the second feed came alive. It showed a fleet. Not orbiting Nadrak. Orbiting Earth. Ships, thousands of them. Alien. Massive. Waiting. Idle. "Your allies," the man said. "Watching your disgrace in real time. Listening to every word." One of Velzen's generals gasped. "The treaty network? Hijacked," the Tharnian whispered. "They're broadcasting this to the galaxy." A third feed opened. This one showing the woman. She stood beneath the Earth Embassy banner, flanked by no soldiers, no weapons. Just a small podium, and a child's chair next to her. She adjusted the microphone. "I want to be very clear," she began, her voice measured. "The human race did not come here for war." She looked directly at the camera. "We came here to warn you that if you start one, we will write the ending." She stepped back. The man in the temple folded his hands. "You hurt someone I love," he said, voice steady. "You hurt her while she carried the future." He walked forward. "You raised your hand not just to a woman, not just to a diplomat, but to hope itself. You mistook her restraint for weakness, her kindness for invitation." He stopped. "And now I'm here." Velzen stepped down from his dais, trembling. "I will not beg." "You don't need to," the man said. "You only need to kneel." Velzen hissed. "Why? Why kneeling? Why not death?" "Because death forgets," the man said. "But shame teaches." A silence settled, one so deep it pressed on lungs. Then the screen blinked one final time. Text appeared. "Submit now, or learn what silence can burn." Velzen dropped to his knees. Not because he wanted to, because he finally understood. The trap had never been ships or guns. It was optics, story, memory. He hadn't been defeated on the battlefield. He'd been out-narrated. And now the galaxy would remember. Not the slap, but the man who came after.